Ta'ala loves you for the same reasons that I love you and the same reasons that I pursued you for marriage. She said to the Prophet ﷺ, let's go to Waraq ibn Nawfal, let's go to my cousin who's a biblical scholar, and let's see what he has to say. She's the one reassuring him ﷺ and taking him over to Waraq, who would reveal to the Prophet ﷺ that this was his first encounter with Jibreel alayhi salam.
I wish I could be there when your people will oppose you. I would help you, and I would aid you, and I would support you, and I would stand by your side if that day would come. And that's why Waraq ibn Nawfal is considered a believer. He said, yes, you are the Prophet of God. This is the truth. And from that point on, Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha stood by the side of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And every single time the Prophet ﷺ had a difficult experience. When he stood up on the mountain of Safa, then Abu Lahab, curses him and talks bad about him and says rude and crude things to him. It was Khadija that the Prophet ﷺ could go home to, and that he could talk to, and that he could confide in, and that he could see comfort in. And not only did he see love in her eyes, but he saw faith in her eyes. And that reaffirmed the strength and the conviction of the Prophet ﷺ.
When the Prophet ﷺ called to his people and the people rejected him, she didn't say we were doing good in society, we had high status and now our reputation is being tarnished, because she is at-tahira and he is a sadiq al-amin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. She stood by his side, reassured him, it's okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring victory to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will honor you. And then she even went to the length of financially supporting the Prophet ﷺ's call and mission and purpose. And this woman who lived her life like a queen would support the Prophet ﷺ with everything that she had. And subhanAllah, even when times got so tough in the boycotts, and this woman who lived their whole life in luxury is now not even able to eat, and she's in her 60s, subhanAllah, and the only one who's delivering food is Hakim ibn Hizam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the nephew of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. He would sneak food to her and some nourishment to her and to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Abu Jahl caught him and he even stopped that route. And this woman never says to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, look at where we are, look at what's happened to us, but rather she stands by him with all loyalty.
Until finally the boycott was lifted and everybody came back into Mecca. And it said that during this time, Khadija, who was a lot older now, she became very sick and very ill. And that harshness of those 3 years, not just the physical harshness, but the emotional difficulty, watching these people struggle, caring for them, loving them. She was like a mother to all of them. Her heart just couldn't bear it. And a couple of months later, she was bedridden for a few months. And the Prophet ﷺ was so distraught this entire time. Until finally one day she breathed her last and she passed away. There are narrations which talk about the fact that the Prophet ﷺ was so devastated. And he was so devastated at the loss of his beloved wife Khadija. For a few days he was not seen outside. And when his family members came to see him, you could see the streaks of tears on his face. Hugging his daughter, sitting there, trying to console his daughter at the loss of her mother. He loved her so much.
If the Prophet ﷺ heard the voice of her sister calling upon him, he would say, Allahumma hala, oh Allah, it's hala, oh Allah, it's hala. He would run because he remembered the voice of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. She says the Prophet ﷺ never slaughtered a sheep or a goat except that he sent some of it to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. And she says that the Prophet ﷺ, anytime she was mentioned, it would be visible on his face that he was moved. He would send gifts to her friends out of his loyalty to her sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
He never forgot Khadija. Never forgot Khadija. Never. 4 years after she passed away, it was the Battle of Badr. His son-in-law was one of the prisoners of war. He had come in the battle on the opposition side, and he was captured. So his daughter, eldest daughter Zainab, sends her necklace to secure the ransom of her husband. When the necklace is put before him, he sees that necklace and immediately knows where he's seen it before. This is Khadija's necklace. And the second the Prophet ﷺ sees that necklace, tears start streaming down his face. Immediately, on contact. And the people around him are so taken aback by the immediate onslaught, just a rush of emotions that the Prophet ﷺ is experiencing. Some of them begin to apologize and ask, is everything okay? And the Prophet ﷺ says, you guys did nothing. I just recognize this necklace. It belongs to my Khadija. She gave it to our daughter Zainab. And seeing this necklace reminds me of her. To go through all the hardship that they went through together, for her to stand by him through thick and thin, through such a difficult task and mission, for him to live on for another 12, 13 years after she passed away, never forgetting about her, always living with her memory, that's love.